It is early in the year 1963. I have before my eyes the young black boy. He is sitting on a bench at the entrance of a Harlem apartment building that is overrun by poverty. The fumes of garbage can be felt in the hallways. Drunks, the unemployed, and drug addicts populate the boy's daily life. The school he attends is staffed primarily by black students and a few Puerto Ricans. His mother is working as a maid for a family from Long Island. I have before me a young Negro girl. She is sitting on the steps of a ramshackle wooden house in Birmingham, which could accommodate the family. Some people, looking at it, would say that it is more like a shack. It could do with a coat of paint, and the roof, although patched, seems to be on the verge of falling apart. Half a dozen young children in various states of undress are running around inside the house. The girl has no choice but to act as a mother. She can no longer continue to go to the school exclusively for Negroes in the neighborhood because her mother recently died in a car accident. The neighbors affirm that if the ambulance had not come so late to take charge of her and take her to the exclusively for Negro hospital, her mother would still be alive. The girl's father is a janitor in a department store in the city's shopping center. He will remain a doorman for the rest of his life because there is no promotion possible for blacks in these stores, in all of whose sections he is served, except for the one that sells hot sandwiches and orange juice. This boy and girl, separated by long miles, ask themselves, why does misery have to be a constant obsession for the Negro? Did their ancestors commit a tragic crime against the nation in the remote past and the weight of punishment fell on the black race? Or did they shirk their duty as patriots, betray their nation, or perhaps they tried to repudiate the legacy they inherited from the country? Did they refuse to defend their country against a foreign invader? Is not the whole story included in the textbooks available to students in Harlem or Birmingham? However, this boy and the girl know something of the part of history that has been censored by white authors and authorized purchasers of official textbooks. They know that Negroes were with George Washington at Valley Forge. They know that the first American to shed blood in the revolution that freed the nation from British oppression was a Negro sailor named Crispus Attucks. The boy's Sunday school teacher has told them that one of the members of the group that drew the plans for their nation's capital, Washington, D.C., was a Negro, Benjamin Banneker. The girl once heard a lecturer who was invited to her school during Negro History Week. I explained how, for 200 years and without wages, the Negro people brought to this country on the Cape ships and enslaved, drained the marshes, built the houses, gave tremendous importance to cotton, and helped to raise this nation on their lash-marked shoulders from colonial obscurity to a decisive position in domestic trade and international exchanges. Wherever there was hard work, dirty work, dangerous work in the mines, on the docks, in the scorching foundries, the Negroes did more than their fair share. The sanctimonious books of Harlem and Birmingham told how the nation fought against slavery. Abraham Lincoln had signed a document that was to be known as the Emancipation Proclamation. The war had been won, but not a just peace. Equality had not come. Equality was 100 years overdue. The young man and the girl knew something besides what history tells. They were more than aware of the events of the day. They knew that the African nations had broken the chains of colonialism. They knew that a great-great-grandson of Crispus Attucks could at any moment be thrown out of a segregated, whites-only restaurant in some segregated, whites-only section of some southern city, even though he was wearing a United States Marine Corps uniform. They knew that Negroes living in their own nation's capital were confined to ghettos and could not always perform work for which they were qualified. They knew that white supremacists had challenged the Supreme Court and that Southern governors had tried to interpose themselves between the people and the nation's highest standard. They knew that for many years their own lawyers had been winning victories in the courts that later resulted in nothing tangible. They were watching television, hearing the radio, reading the press. In all places it was said that this was the first centenary of the birth of their independence. But freedom had a bitter taste. His voice was mocking when, at his time during the brief period of life of this boy and this girl, the buses stopped shooting in Montgomery. Those who were installed in segregated establishments were imprisoned and mistreated. The freedom travelers were subject to violence and besieged by the crowds. In Birmingham, the muckers were withdrawn from the dogs, and in Brooklyn, New York, there were certain kinds of construction work reserved for whites. This happened in the summer of 1963. Was emancipation a fact? Was freedom enough for us? The boy in Harlem stood up. The girl got up in Birmingham, Separated by long miles, they both adopted and also determined and looked up to heaven. Above the distance they set their hands and stepped forward with resolution. It was a step that moved even the deepest to the richest and most powerful of nations. Such is the story of that boy and this girl. Such is the story of why we cannot expect